What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome to the Canes Insight Daily Podcast, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Recruiting, man. We got the official visits lined up. A lot of interesting names. We're going to talk about the top 5 must-haves. These are the names that come up when I talk to people as far as we got to get these players. They're essential guys, names that just come up over and over again. And you watch the film, you monitor some of the track stuff, some of the other sports that these guys are playing, and you say, yeah, these are the 5 must-have players for Miami in this recruiting class as we sit here February 21st. Talk about must-haves for attorneys. If you've been in an accident, that is Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. Pete, hop in.
Good morning, D.
Happy Friday. How you doing?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Excited for this show. A lot of guys we've spoken about before, but pivotal prospects for Miami to land in this class.
Yeah, man. Just like my guy right here, Gmo, my boy. I have lunch with him on Monday, maybe at the Dining Pavilion, Islas Canarias. We'll see. It says like, share, and subscribe. Pete, hop in. Appreciate you and everything you guys are doing over there at Category 6 Canes. Happy game day. Yep. Miami Hurricanes baseball trying to get back on the winning track with Princeton. Disappointing loss to FAU. Another one in Boca. It's been a house of horrors for the Canes. Narrow loss. Hopefully the Bats wake up here for this weekend. Take 4 from Princeton Tigers. There you go. We got game day right here at the light. I may or may not be there. I'll definitely be there this weekend. I don't know if it's going to be today or maybe Sunday for that final game. Watch our boy Brian Walters do his thing. So listen, recruiting is the name of the game. I did a little bit of bank yesterday, talking about players that are on campus now, but I was around campus yesterday talking to people and kind of getting a feel for who the priority recruits are. And there's a lot of priority recruits, but these are some names that really jump out as top priorities, guys that the Canes have to get, guys that the Canes have some momentum with and everything else. And really, to me, the name that we're going to start with is the guy. You got to get this player. I think the Canes will get this player, but it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a battle, but this guy, you cannot let this player wear another uniform. And that is Derek Cooper, the running back from Chaminade, ran a 10.7 in the 100 meters last week. I mean, this guy can fly. Also 22 7 3/4 long jumper, 38-11 triple jumper. I mean, I don't know what more you could say about this guy. He is 205, 6'1", running back, tough as nails, productive, plays defense. I think he could be elite top 10 pick as a safety / linebacker. But what he's showing in the track season, to me, Pete, is that he is a truly unique and special athlete. He's not just a big, I compare him to Kenny McIntosh in terms of a guy that I think could be a first-round linebacker, and it's still a very good running back. McIntosh playing in the NFL. But I think what separates Cooper from McIntosh is this right here.
Yeah, the speed.
Sprinter speed.
Yeah. No, that's without a doubt, that's the biggest thing I notice as well. Yes, a lot of people are going to say that he could be a better linebacker, which might be the case, but you've said it time and time again, and I'm on the same page with you on it. Just in general, with a guy like this, let him play what he wants. He's a really good running back, right? So if Derrick Henry would have been moved, I don't think that obviously we would have seen what we've seen out of his career, right? It's not the same player, but how many times did we hear that over the years? We had his high school coach on, who was Carson Beck's high school coach, and he said the same thing. So you let this guy play what he wants to play. Everyone's going to start to want to be the next Travis Hunter and play both ways. Could he be a guy that does that? We saw Miles Jack do it. I mentioned before, running back, linebacker at UCLA. It's not like this guy has to be your bell cow at running back, right? You can feature him heavily, but at the same time, get him involved in other ways. So I think that's the sort of talented athlete he is.
Yeah, it's like you said, he's pretty unique. I know Anthony Manzano's asking him, do you guys think he can do what Travis Hunter did at Colorado? Look, Travis Hunter, what he did was rare. Obviously, that's why he won the Heisman. It hasn't been done in a generation. But I think on a smaller level, you could see it here. You see him on defense. Maybe on passing downs, you bring him in, right? Because there's ability to cover, his ability to blitz and make plays. There you see him forcing the fumble, recovering it. I mean, he's a natural defensive player as well. It doesn't look out of place there. I think maybe passing downs because of his versatility. And you see him here, instinctive. The closing speed is elite. I could see him there. But really, bottom line is, if you look at the track times this season, again, under 10.8, there you see the transition speed. I mean, this guy's faster than pretty much any DB we have at 205 pounds. Look at the long jump, getting close to 23 feet. This is somebody who you project as really a 4.4, 4.3 type runner at 6'1", 205. So 6'1", 205, 4.3. Where doesn't that fit? And this guy's, and he's productive. He's not just a track star. You see him making plays all over the place, and he's tough. So I think maybe packages, if that's what sells him to get over here, let him prove to you that he can't do it, right? If he plays a little bit of defense and it doesn't work, he just is, he doesn't have the time to figure it out mentally, right? Because he's doing double duty or whatever other reason, he's tired, and you say, okay, you can't do it. But if he can do it, let it keep doing it. And then, special teams, we've seen that repeatedly on these highlights. He's someone who can make plays in that side of the ball as well, not just as a returner with the speed, but really as a coverage guy, blocking kicks. 6'1", 205, 4'3", productive, tough, local, number one, must get, 5-star player.
EJ is commenting here, and I'm just going to do the spoiler alert so we don't miss this comment. He's saying Grant Wise. I actually mentioned him before. He's not on our top 5. I mentioned him as someone that I think is right in the mix for the top 5. So again, spoiler alert, Grant Wise is not on the list, but I think he's very close to being a top 5 based on what I've heard.
Yeah, he was like, I've heard the word must have with him as well. So the fact that he's not on this list, he was probably the last name off. I could see it as a must have. I buy the argument. The only reason I wouldn't is just because we signed some pretty good interior alignment in this class, with SJ and Max Buchanan, and we need some length and some legitimate tackles. So I think that's really what I'm aiming for.
D, not to break up the flow too much, but I wanted to get to this comment from Anthony Manzano because I know you'll have something to say about it. But he asked why we don't do baseball recruiting coverage, and I know you do a lot of it already. It's on a separate show, so if maybe you haven't seen it because of that, but D and Sebastian Font do a great job covering the recruiting side of things.
Yeah, and especially once you get past the draft, we do a ton. Just because these are guys that, are going to make it to campus, right? So around, when you get to it's February, once you get to when's the draft this year? It got pushed back. But basically in the middle of the summer after the draft, we do a big recruiting show just for the guys that, ultimately did not choose to go to the drafts. The draft this year is July 13th. I know they pushed it back with college baseball being what it is now. So let's say, sometime in late July, we'll probably do a breakdown of who didn't sign with the team that drafted him, who's going to Miami, and really break down the class that way. So you'll get a full breakdown when we get to that point.
So let's keep this list moving here. Let's get to the next player, and that is Calvin Russell from Miami Northwestern.
Yeah, no surprise. His mom's in the Hall of Fame for women's basketball. He himself is a standout basketball player. Was really having a nice season. It got cut short in the state championship, but this guy can play ball. He could potentially play ball at the next level. I think it's similar to Derek Cooper, whereas he wants to be a two-sport star. Give him a chance. If he can't do it, he can't do it. But I want to see that he can do it. Right? Let him prove it here. We certainly need help on the basketball team. Keon Coleman, ultimately from FSU, played for Michigan State, which is a heck of a program. And played football, ended up sticking to football and having a tremendous success as a second-round pick to the Bills. So I could see something like that for Russell where you give him a chance. If he can't do it, he can't do it. But it's not going to hurt you. You see his football highlights here. I mean, the size, the speed. You see him running on the outside here. Reminds you of Jeremiah Smith physically. I think Jeremiah Smith more polished, much more football focused. He didn't play basketball. He did run track, but which Russell also competes in track as well. Very good in the jumping events. But Jeremiah Smith was more football focused than Russell at this point. So I think he was just further along. But in terms of the physical tools, similar. Jeremiah Smith probably a little bit more explosive, just powerful. Like he's just a locomotive when he goes forward. Russell maybe a little more kind of that basketball coordination, and he's 6'6" at this point. According to his 7-on-7 coach Duaso, he thinks he's either 6'6" or about to be 6'6". So brings a little different element there. Where Jeremiah Smith, also a giant, but not as tall as Russell. I put Jeremiah Smith ahead of him.
Movement schools, man. Those movement skills. Sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I think Jeremiah Smith a little ahead of him, but the upside, you see why you could put him in the same category.
Yeah, he moves. He doesn't move like these big receivers we see a lot of times are kind of lumbering in their movements. It doesn't look very fluid. It's sometimes you look at those, the skinny ankles are a good thing. They say that in basketball as well, but you see it with him. And I'll pull up the basketball clips you sent me here a second ago, but he does this consistently against the best competition in South Florida. So
yep, you got a nice release there. I mean, that right there, that last play, that was pure wide receiver play, right? They're pressing him, they're right in his nose. He gets off press, has a nice in breaking route. There you see him again. He has changed of direction, right? This guy, I think he's only scratching the surface of what he can do as a receiver, and it's going to be about developing, sharpening his tools. But he's not stiff at all. We've had guys like Tommy Streeter was very straight line fast and a good player. Ended up being really good towards the end of his career, but he wasn't a fluid guy. Whereas Russell, I think, has the short area quicks and fluidity to eventually become a really good route runner.
Johnny Lagoon asking who Miami's battling with. Still Syracuse, as they've been a school who's been in the mix there very early.
Yep, Syracuse is one for sure. He has a great relation. Look at that catch right there, where you're battling for Calvin Russell. I think the basketball thing, I think one thing that's going to be big on Calvin Russell is, and also Jason Lopez, who's not on this list, but another dual sport athlete from Chaminade, the wide receiver, is once you get a basketball coach and you kind of see if he calls these kids, which I hope he does, whoever it is. We did that whole episode. Jai Lucas was a name you mentioned, Pete, as a possibility. I hope whoever that coach is calls these guys, lets them know there's an opportunity for them to play basketball, shows some interest, shows that he watched the film. Look at the toughness from Russell lead blocking there. And gives these guys a chance, because that's going to help our case.
Yep.
Put his basketball clips on. I want to see what we got here.
Yep. Let me pull it up right here.
You look at his Twitter, it says Calvin Russell, dual sport athlete. So he clearly views himself not just as a football player. He views himself as a dual sport athlete, right? Look at that. 38 points and 19 rebounds in the regional quarterfinals. Here you see getting the rebound in 19 rebounds.
Yeah, coast to coast type of player from what I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, look at that, man. He's fired up. You love the energy. I love it. I love seeing him block. I love seeing him compete. I mean, this guy's a competitor, and you see his body. I mean, he's skinny, but I don't see him being, a string bean. I think this guy's going to gain some good weight.
I mean, I haven't watched enough of him basketball wise to know his skill set to the next level. Athletically can do it, but like you and I have gone to these basketball games, we've been at practices. That's a body type the basketball team needs.
Yeah. And I mean, let's see what they got. I mean, there's no team. So to say someone is blocking him, or, he's going to block the progress of player A, I mean, there's no team. So, let's see what they got. Let's see what he's got, and let's let him compete.
JR Godfather asking D Money, does Mario allow two sport athletes? I know some schools coaches don't go for that. Look, I don't know Mario's specific policy on it, because we haven't had have we had anyone who's playing another sport? Off the top of my head, I can't think of it. Maybe someone running track or something, but I don't think that's been the case. But Mario will do a lot of things to win a recruiting battle, and if one of those things is making sure that a 5-star must-get type of talent, like we're talking about here in Calvin Russell, wants to play basketball or give it a shot, because I've mentioned before, athletically, I think he can do it, and I have to watch him skill set wise. I have no reason to believe he can't be a power 4 basketball player. But what'll happen is he'll get there and he'll realize, man, I want to do it, but it's sometimes you got to choose, right? It's not a talent thing. It's you got to pour everything into it. Could he come to that point when he steps on campus? Potentially. I would love to see him give it a shot, and I would love for the basketball program and new coach to be on board with giving him a legit opportunity as well.
Yeah, that's something to keep an eye on, though, because I know Bryce Bocher, the linebacker / center fielder for Oregon, that's there right now. he didn't play actually his freshman year. He didn't play football. He only played baseball. So he became a football player when Lanning took over. I don't know if there's a link to that. That's something to keep an eye on, though, that I'll be following.
Yeah, listen, Michigan State has let football play. They let Draymond Green. Draymond Green was playing football. Keon Coleman had played basketball. At Michigan State as well. So like, there's big time serious programs who have done it. Obviously, North Carolina, Julius Peppers, we know, but so it's not unprecedented with a talent like this.
No, and I mean, look, I think he told Russell that he could play both sports already. I believe that's been said. Of course, there's no basketball coach, so it's not, he's speaking, I guess, from his perspective. But as far as I know, the message has been that they're recruiting him at both, and the same thing for Jason.
But that's why I say I hope the basketball coach, because again, I don't think this is a Mario thing if it comes down to that.
Right.
So moving on here, so the top two we've said so far: Derek Cooper, Calvin Russell. Let's get into the trenches here, and I think people are expecting a highly rated guy on the offensive line. A couple of them, because the last couple of years has been more developmental types following that year that you had Francis Mawanoa and Samson Okunlola. So we will get to one of those names now, and that's Kenye Pepe from IMG.
Yeah, look, again, we mentioned Grant Wise could have been the must get here, but I went with Pepe. This is somebody who is clearly a tackle all the way. He's got great length, great athleticism. I think if you compare to now, of course, look, left tackle for IMG, Polynesian, Miami's into it, very in the picture here. There's going to be natural comparisons to Francis Mawanoa, who's on track to be a top 10 pick next year. I would say the difference right now, Pepe is not as wide shouldered, right? You see right there his shoulders. He's more narrow up top, good lower body, good height, but not as wide and powerful right now. That will develop over time. But I think that's one difference between him and Mawanoa at the same stage. You saw him at the Under Armour All-America game where they allow juniors to play, which is a new thing. I think all the tackles in his class kind of struggled a little bit. You saw Micah Morris get ragdolled a few times. Jackson Cantwell, number one player in the country, really struggled in pass blocking. Yet Imacho had his moments. But the guy who, of all those 5 stars, these are really the best tackles in the country were in that game in terms of rating. The guy who started at left tackle and played the most was Pepe. Right, it was told me a lot. He actually started left tackle, and then Fasusi, who's going to Oklahoma, who's a stud, played right tackle. So Pepe, the staff had a ton of faith in him by putting him there at left tackle, and I thought his technique was good, and he was the best of that group. Still got beat a bit, particularly his teammate Jake Cruel did some work on him with some great motor. He's a natural pass rusher, technically sound, but I think in general, he held up really good. And I'm sure if you saw him next year in that same game, he's going to be leaps and bounds better because it's such a developmental position. But great technique, well coached, leader. Again, started left tackle in an All-American game as a junior. That says a lot. He's a 5-star player. Miami's been recruiting him forever. He has the height. He has the quickness. I think this is going to be a really, really good player, a really, really good tackle. And we'll see if he's a day one starter like Mawanoa, if Miami's able to land him. But Miami is treating him like an equal priority to Mawanoa was. This is the guy they want. This is one of the guys they want to tackle, but this is a guy they can't lose due to the connections.
Yeah, everyone's going to make that comparison. I think Francis just had that special power in his hands. It's not a weight room thing necessarily. We talk about it all the time in offensive line coaches. It's something you can't quantify watching on tape. You have the offensive line coach, a lot of them like to feel it themselves, like actually go through these drills with them. That is what I think Francis was elite at already coming in. Just he had it. We'll see if Pepe has that from an athletic standpoint. I mean, you see it a little bit there. You see him using his hands there, and the technique, like you said, is really solid already. You'd imagine that at IMG, the development is top notch. So look at his movement skills. So yeah.
Quick question from Anthony Manzano. I understand he's the number one player in the nation, but do you guys think Jackson Cantwell's a day one starter? You think he needs development? I think he needs some development just because he hasn't. First of all, he's thin, right? He's very powerful. I mean, he's probably the best thrower in the nation. Both his parents were Olympic throwers. His power in his hands is crazy, but he's narrow. He's thin, as is Pepe, by the way. So you want to see them get a little bit more mass on him. They're juniors. We'll see how they look as seniors. But I think Cantwell, when you compare him to Pepe in the same game, the reason I think Pepe started at left tackle and Cantwell was the backup right tackle in that game is because Cantwell just hasn't pass blocked a lot in high school. So when they pass blocked, he looked a little out of sorts. Small school Missouri, he's not getting that kind of prep that Pepe is at IMG, not getting the same level of, coaching, right? So I think Pepe further along, I think that's pretty clear considering how they were used at the same game. But Cantwell has huge upside as well. We'll see how they look in a year, right? Because this is a position where you develop a lot. I mean, sometimes these Pro Bowl tackles weren't even playing the position at this age. So you have to see how the weight comes on. You got to see how the technique develops. You got to see how the power develops. But I do think right now, Pepe is more positioned to be a day one player, as again, reflected by how they performed in the Under Armour game. Upside, both these guys are through the roof. We'll see how they look over the course of the year.
And I think Cantwell, look, he may not be a day one starter, but he's the type of guy that you rotate in as a 6 offensive lineman, I think.
Yeah, I could see that too. Run blocking. I mean, just the power in the hands is rare because of the throwing.
Anthony Manzano says he Cantwell reminds him of Joe Thomas.
Joe Thomas was so athletic, and he was so coordinated and was so elite at pass blocking, so balanced. He's another guy to develop, so we'll have to see how the development goes. If Cantwell reminds me a little bit more of those like South Dakota, North Dakota, Idaho, Northern Iowa type guys you've seen. They're just these tall, super strong freaks of nature that kind of develop into monsters. I think a guy like Spencer Brown, who's the right tackle for Buffalo, I believe he went to Northern Iowa. Guy who tall, similar height, really put the weight on, developed, and became a powerful, standout NFL player. I could see that kind of trajectory where it takes a little while, but the payoff is outstanding.
All right, keeping it moving here. A position that I think a lot of fans, their worries were slowed down a bit for this next upcoming year with the work that was done in the portal, but still, after missing out on elite prospects like DJ Pickett and Ben Hanks, you need to land someone close to that tier at defensive back, at corner, and Jalen Waters out of Armwood would, I think, be in that category.
Seatbelt, yeah, already crystal balled to the Miami Hurricanes. We're in it for some interesting defensive backs, right? Andre Clark from Richmond's a guy that I almost picked here just because I was so interested by his film. 6'1", 175, officially visiting June 20th. You have some other really talented defensive backs. Kamari Bing from St. Francis in Baltimore, Maryland commit that's scheduled to visit. So there's some interesting DBs kind of in the mix on top of local guys. You got Danny Odom in Orlando. You got, Aiden Pouncey as a safety from the Orlando area, super talented. Camden Portis, of course, committed already. There's some guys, but to me, when you talk about cornerback, this guy right here with his length, they call him Sipo for a reason. He's right there. He is on these receivers. They're not going anywhere. We're watching this is sophomore film, really, that Pete you're putting up here. So just, this guy's got even, but you see how good he is even then. The footwork, the transition, the ability to flip his hips. There you see him making the play for a great program in Armwood, the great length. The comparison from Coach Duasso, who coached him in 7-on-7, is he's got DJ Ivy's physical tools with just more edge, more confidence, more ability to shake off bad plays. And you say DJ Ivy is playing this year for the Bengals on defense, coming off an ACL. Oh, here he goes. So now I got the junior film. Coming off an ACL, DJ Ivy is still playing on the Cincinnati Bengals defense. And again, Waters has those physical tools, but just more of an edge, because Ivy, I think his weakness at Miami was really that he'd go in the tank, his confidence would go, he wouldn't find the football. He just didn't have that kind of spark, whereas Waters really has that spark.
JR Godfather with the comment of the day here. He says, just like these players being must get, don't forget to smash that like button and get them croquetas from Islas Canarias. Also must get. Oh,
must get. And the crema de malanga. Nothing better than what you got there at Islas Canarias Express in the dining pavilion. So, someone's asking, Youssef, if we had a choice between Flowers or Waters, who do we get? I would say, as a corner, I think probably Waters gives you more just because of his length. I think Flowers a nickel only, but it could be a really, really good one. Super rare with his speed. I think when you put the returning in and maybe like even two-way ability, Flowers has more of that. I mean, he's an elite returner, and you can even put him on offense. Waters to me is a pure corner. So, different positions, I'd say as far as being an outside corner, definitely Waters, but nickel return, just kind of the speed and dynamic, not just the speed, but the ability to be dynamic and change directions. Flowers is there. So, I'd say that's how you break him down.
Anthony Manzano said, "Who are your muskets at safety?" We're going back to the 16th century warfare here.
I like Aiden Pouncey, man. Aiden Pouncey's a beast. 4-star out of Winter Park, Florida. Gator legacy. Georgia's in the mix. Miami's in the mix. He's visited. He is a thumper, man. He's super physical and tough. He's got great athleticism. He plays receiver. He's dynamic with the ball in his hands. 6'2.5", 160. I like Aiden Pouncey. He wasn't on this list. He easily could have been. He is super talented. I'm a big Aiden Pouncey guy. I think he's a big-time player at safety. That's why you're battling Florida, which is a legacy, and then you're battling Georgia, which knows something about elite safety play.
All right. Now, the fifth guy on this list, someone who, when we pulled up his film and I saw it for the first time the other day, I immediately became a huge fan of, a really, really unique prospect. And I don't see guys labeled like this anymore, so I threw it on him. Jumbo athlete, Hezi Kent. Is that still something? I know Rivals used to have a jumbo athlete positional ranking back in the day, but I don't notice that much these days. So this guy definitely falls in that category.
Well, they try to project more these days, but how do you project this guy? I mean, this guy truly is a jumbo athlete. I'm not sure where you put him. You use the JJ, is it Pegs?
JJ Pegs from started his career at Auburn and then was at Ole Miss the last few years. D tackle, tight end, Wildcat quarterback, and Kent's bigger than him. But that's the only recent comparison in terms of a skill set and a school actually allowing him to do that, right? Because that's what it seems like Miami and Coach Cristobal are going to give him the opportunity to do.
Yeah, he's hard to characterize, man. I mean, you look at his film, Pete. This is probably the best film we've seen. Defensive line, tight end, running back, offensive tackle. I'm just not sure where you put him. Here you see him lining up wide and just mossing guys. He is so talented, man. What I like about him is he has a lot of confidence. He's saying, "I'm going to be." Look at him in the back. He's saying, "I'm a tight end," and we're Coach Whittle's the one going out and getting him. So
look at this, throwing him screens, man. This is great.
I mean,
this is
look at the tackle breaking.
It's the tackle breaking, and then he's still going. It's just shoot.
There's the Wildcat. I mean, he's not out there doing it for fun. Look at these are big plays. This could work. I mean, you could run the Wildcat with him at the ACC level, especially when you have look at the balance, especially when you have offensive line like we do. I mean, imagine if you have an offensive line that's 330 plus across the board,
who's an eligible receiver.
This guy's 300.
I forgot how much I love this.
And he can pass. I feel like Boobie Miles' dad in the movie, man. This gotta be our favorite player since we started.
Man, I gotta give the OC a ton of credit over there at Brunswick, because they're using him in a creative way.
Yeah, they are. And he's your best athlete. You see him blocking. It's funny. His blocking looks, just overwhelms guys. It's not like, I'm not sure he is more of a finesse play, in his head, he's more of a skill position guy. Cause look, right. He's clearing guys out when he blocks just because of his size, but he seems more instinctive with the ball in his hand.
His football IQ looks really, he has ball carrier vision. When he's breaking tackles, he's making moves to try to, do certain things and get upfield. And then even on some of these, not this play, but there was a block earlier where he was coming across the formation as a tight end, and he just kind of he knows he's so big that instead of just going after one guy, he's clearing the way for a couple, just knowing how to position his body, man.
So backing up saying you are joking. I'm not joking. I'd have this guy doing Wildcat. Why not?
Ole Miss had JJ Pegs doing that. Let me see what his stats were the last couple of years. But this is a guy who was scoring touchdowns in the SEC consistently, was a goal line threat for them. This is not. That's why I use that comparison, because this is something that everyone's talking about, the Travis Hunters of the world and all that. But there's more guys out there than he scored 7 touchdowns this year,
and he caught
seven. Okay, but guess what? 7 attempts, 7 touchdowns. at the goal line, 100%. Why can't this guy do the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, that helps your team, right? He was a tight end when he got to Auburn, then switched to defensive tackle.
And has turned himself into a good D tackle at 3.5 sacks this year. So we're not saying like the guy's main position is going to be as a skilled position guy, but you got to figure out how to use his talent, man.
Yeah, and I'm in a favor of just overwhelming guys with size. So I was reading about Bill Walsh. I guess I'm such a UM guy. I think it's Steve Walsh. Read about Bill Walsh, and he said, the running game in the NFL should be more about kind of scheming it up, because you're not going to. There's too much parity in terms of physical size and power that you're not going to be able to just overwhelm guys, right? Like you would in other levels. But in college, there is not that level of parity. You can completely outsize your opponent because it's not the professionals. So if you're the Miami Hurricanes and you have, let's just use examples here. I don't know. I think our offense, we're going to probably bring some portal guys, but let's just say, you have a big center like a Ryan Rodriguez as your center. Let's just use him as an example. Matt McCoy, Markel Bell comes back with the JUCO rules, a Kinsler, Sampson, guys that are all 320 plus. And then this guy is at fullback or wildcat, and Elijah Lofton's there. I mean, you could just outsize everybody. You're 300 pounds across the board plus a 250-pound fullback, or he's the ball carrier, right? And this guy's the fullback.
Mario's having some dirty dreams about that.
You could do it, man, because again, in the college level, you can use pure size and power to overwhelm teams in a way you can't do in the pros, because there's less parity in college when it comes to size. That's why Alabama, Georgia, teams like that just out physical teams for decades, because you have the ability to do that. This player gives you the chance to do that, gives you a million options. You already have a big offensive line. I'm excited to see what you could do with him, but I definitely don't think you just take him and say, hey, you're a tackle, or hey, you're a D tackle right off the bat. You have to at least use him on offense a little bit.
Yusuf says DJ Dallas came from the same school. So it's the same area, but different school. DJ and Zalante Hillary, the offensive lineman who came in that same time, were from Glenn Academy. So Brunswick, same area. Believe not far from Jacksonville, if I'm not mistaken. About an hour and a half away from Jacksonville. So
yeah, so those are our five. We're going to take some questions here. First, I want to talk about baseball a little bit. Big series against Princeton, trying to get right against a team that's a solid Ivy League performer. We got tickets brought to you by Echeverria Title. So we got tickets for the game free. Whoever answers this question and is in town and wants the tickets for tonight's game Friday.
Don't answer the question if you can't make it, because
let us know if you want the tickets. Otherwise, we'll ignore. But Echeverria Title, they'll handle the marketing and title of any transaction without the need for an expensive real estate broker. They sell your property for more and you save on closing costs. They'll handle marketing, tours, title work, legal work, and more. One-stop shop. Why pay for an expensive broker? Will take 3% of your sale. Deal with Echeverria Title. There you go.
Johnny said, I'll take the tickets. You gotta get this question right, Johnny. Let's go.
All right, Johnny. If you want this tickets, get this question right. You can Google it too if you want. He says the answer is Zach Collins. The answer is not Zach Collins. That same question I asked yesterday. I'm going to ask it again. 2015 at the Coral Gables Super Regional versus VCU. This player entered a bases loaded, no out jam as a relief pitcher. Bases loaded, no out jam, and escaped with no damage. They call him the Iceman. 5'9", 160, right-handed pitcher from Killian. If you want the tickets, right behind the home plate, 2 beautiful tickets for today's game Friday at 7 against Princeton. See if you can get it right. I see people answering the questions. If you want the tickets, answer. Let us know when you answer with your answer. Yeah, I know it was the question yesterday, Johnny. No one answered it. So if you want those tickets, you better answer the question. Let's see real quick while people are answering. EJ saying Mario runs power and duo from 13 personnel. We're a huge duo team. One thing about our offensive line is we relied more on pure power and mass than other teams. We didn't have a lot of these wide splits and trying to pry open these holes while risking a big play in the backfield. A lot of it was just tight splits, limit the negative plays, dominate the man in front of you. And the result was Miami had the best yards per carry in the nation besides Notre Dame. Here we go.
Are
Johnny
these
Lagoon
lagoons?
I mean, I don't know what language that's in, but yes, Sam Abrams from Killian High School, the great Sam Abrams, was the one who had that incredible performance at the Super Regional, helped save the game for the Canes. So, Johnny, you got the tickets courtesy of a Cheveria title. Text me. I think you have my number, or just email me on the website. Text me on the website, and I'll get you those tickets. You're the man.
If you guys want to see that moment that we're talking about, you just search Sam Abrams Iceman on YouTube. That's the video.
There you go. Also a fan of the show. So Bagging Up says we need more diversity in the run game. It's run up the lineman's back and squeeze out 3 to 4 yards. Well, look, here's what I'll say. It is a lot of that where you just line up tight. You're not going to take a tackle for loss. You're not going to get behind the sticks. You're not going to give Cam Ward a tough situation, and you're going to do a conservative type run. That is true. However, it's not 3 to 4 yards. Miami averaged 5.6 yards per carry. And if you're talking about Power 4, the only two teams that were ahead of them in Power 4 were Kansas State, 5.9, and Notre Dame, 5.7. Miami's fifth with 5.6. The other two teams are G5. And remember, Kansas State, Notre Dame had running quarterbacks, right? So as far as a team that was a pass-first type team, Miami had the highest yards per carry by far. And that was with this very conservative running game. So they were able to run the ball for tremendous efficiency with these tight splits. And the benefit of the tight splits is Miami was better than anybody in avoiding tackles for loss. So if you're not getting a lot of tackles for loss, you're not getting free rushers from these tight splits, from these wide splits, your passing game is going to be in favorable down and distance more often than not. And what happened? How was Miami's passing game? We had the best third down conversion rate in the country by a mile. And Cam Ward did not have that. I mean, Cam Ward obviously had a lot to do with it, how smart he is and how good he is, but he did not have anywhere near that kind of third down conversion rate at Washington State. So you can get away with tight splits if you can physically overwhelm your opponent. Miami was able to do that this year with Damian Martinez, Mark Fletcher, Jordan Lyle, and this giant offensive line. Let's see if it can continue this year. But I think that's part of what the vision is for Miami football is physically overwhelm with size up front, no gimmicks, no games, come straight at you, avoid losses, and give our quarterback, in this case, Carson Beck, a chance to have favorable down and distance. Yusuf saying 5.6 got to be top 5 in the country. It was. So here's the top 5. New Mexico, number 1 with that crazy offense. And Dan Pierre at quarterback, again, running quarterback. Kansas State, running quarterback, Avery Johnson, 5.9 yards per carry. Number 3, Boise State with Ashton Jeanty, 5.8. Notre Dame, number 4, 5.7 with, again, running quarterback Riley Leonard and Jeremiah Love and their great offensive line. Number 5, Miami, 5.6. And Miami also had the best passing game in the country. And to my point I'm trying to make here about why they were so conservative is they were one of the best teams, if not the best team in the country in avoiding negative gains. So they had the positive gains and the chunk gains without the negative games. And what does that mean when you get a quarterback like Cam Ward? Third down conversion percentage. Number 1, Miami, 55%. Number 2, Troy, 50%. The difference between Miami and the number 1 team in the country in third down percentage, the Miami Hurricanes, and the number 2 team was bigger than the gap between the number 2 team and the number 22 team. I'll repeat. The gap between the first team in third down conversion percentage, Miami Hurricanes, and the number 2 team, Troy, was bigger, the gap from 1 to 2, than the gap from 2 to 22. What else? What else can I tell you? This was a dominant third down team. Yes, Cam Ward had a lot to do with that. No question about it. But if you look at 2023, Washington State was 51st, 40%. So the run game and the ability to make positive chunk gains without ever losing contributed to that. And that's why you had tight splits. That's why you and when you have tight splits, you got to physically overwhelm and just knock back the guy in front of you. No real frills. Miami was able to do that last year. There is Kyle saying Miami was ranked 4th nationally in tackles for loss allowed, which is outstanding. I've been looking for that stat. I knew it was there. I couldn't find it. Put in the comments where you got that, because I'm just looking for a good stat. It's not on my main one, but I knew it was high. question from you, Canes fan, you. D-Money, which of the 3 freshman receiver could you see starting next season? That's going to be the battle. I mentioned in the bank yesterday, all 3 of these wide receivers have gotten consistent praise as far as their readiness, their talent, their mentality, etc. Sometimes you hear one kind of getting a little more praise, right? So you're not getting that as much. You're saying all 3 of these guys are really good. Now, of course, there's going to be separation at one point. So I think what you see is workouts. They're all pretty close. Different types of players. I would say Malachi Tony's more of a natural slot. I would say Dalen Upshaw more of a natural flanker or maybe a slot. And then Josh Moore, your classic X receiver, big and athletic. So there's the stats for the tackles for loss. Appreciate that, Kyle. So, that's that they all play different positions. We'll see who's more ready when the pads come on, because receiver is one position that I think practice translates, but it's got to be contact practice, because you got to see who can not only get open and be athletic, but make plays through contact, hold on to the ball, be tough, be reliable, deal with the physicality.
Johnny Lagoon and Kane's Cat, man, they're playing nice in the comments after Kane's Cat said that he took his seats.
Yeah, he's getting milkshakes for him. What a gentleman. Shout out to Johnny Lagoon. The wife's eating milkshakes for 2 now. So shout out to the Goon family. Manzano's saying, do you agree with the comparison they have for Jason Lopez? Which, by the way, I've had to correct myself on this. It's Jason with an E. So Jasen. They're saying he's a bigger and faster version of X. I mean, look, X was a first-team All-America. So if he's a bigger, faster version of X, put his jersey in the rafters. We're in pretty good shape. But I would say, X was like a running back playing receiver. That's what he was at the youth level. And then he became a receiver when he was, I think, a junior. Was his first year really playing receiver. Whereas with Lopez, he's a basketball player, man. He's got a little more length, a little more fluidity in terms of being a hooper. Although X was a really good contested catch receiver as well. Right after catch, I would give the edge to X based on what I know now, but Lopez can do some stuff after the catch too. If he's anything like X mentally, and so far, I mean, to produce at the level he has at basketball and football, where he's an elite player of both in high school in South Florida, good competition. There's a reason why, he's another one that could have easily been on our list of the must-gets. Yeah, by the way, if you got kids, a must-get is the 30% off youth apparel at Miami Hurricane Team Store, MiamiHTS.com, or you can go to the store right across the street from the university next to the Thesis Hotel. Again, 30% off kids apparel. That includes the Cam Ward youth jersey. Get your kids ready for summer. I know they're going to, no more school uniform every day. They're going to be wearing clothes. You got to get them. You got to get them geared up. Go to MiamiHTS.com, 30% off all kids stuff. And you want to get something for yourself? Use promo code INSIGHT20, 20% off your first item using promo code INSIGHT20. If you go to the store, just say Canes Insight, Insight 20, or whatever. They got a button for us. They'll just hit it. Boom. You get 20% off your first item at the Miami Hurricane Team Store, the official retail provider of your Miami Hurricanes.
Best hat in the game right here.
The Maniac. My kid's got one of those. Maybe we'll be rocking that on Sunday. Hopefully going for the sweep.
So Anthony Manzano's been asking about a couple safeties here, D, if you want to.
All right.
Get to that. Simeon Caldwell and Karan Maycock.
Yeah, I haven't seen Caldwell. I have to watch him. I've heard the name as a target. With I think I posted him in the bank as someone that we were after. With Maycock, he's more of a linebacker. Obviously, just committed to Florida State from Central. So we'll see how that develops. I heard he's bigger. He's listed at 180. I think he's bigger than that. I think he is an actual linebacker. We like him as kind of your versatile linebacker who can cover and hit. FSU got him, but FSU has had trouble holding on to guys that we want or other teams want. So Miami's going to continue to pursue Maycock, as far as I understand. Really talented player, versatile. As he gets bigger, his stock will continue to, as he gets closer to that 210 range, 220 range, his stock will continue to climb, because he is a very versatile player, and a very productive player for a Central defense that produces starters every single year.
Guys, remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as we go live every day, Monday through Friday. And, we bring you everything else. We have the baseball coverage as well, the basketball. The post games have been a little sad this year, obviously, but trying to keep you guys as up to date as I can on the coaching search. So we'll see what happens there, man. I think it's a big big opportunity to make an important hire here for Dan Radakovich.
Yeah, well, look, you get some scoop, Pete, and we'll hopefully. I like all your names that you've listed so far, so hopefully we can get it done.
Yeah, see what happens. Appreciate everyone for tuning in with us today. Keep it locked on CanesInsight.com over the weekend. If anything breaks, we will, of course, have you covered. Hit that like, subscribe to the channel. See you guys on Monday, unless something happens, of course, this weekend.
Go Canes.